Hello, and welcome. So I am Candace Spears, and as you can see, I am the host here in this group. Welcome to everybody. As you're joining, just jump in, say hello, wave hi so that I know that you are here. I am Candace Spears, serial entrepreneur, coach to corporate women. Hello, ladies. Coach to corporate women, helping them leap into full-time entrepreneurship, and especially by building service-based businesses at premium prices. So tonight's topic. So tonight kind of starts our series around operations, and I'm glad to see that Cassandra is in the chat because she is the one who inspired these series of the next two lives with her question around working with contractors and developers and the like. So we're going to be focusing our time today talking about how you create a high functioning team when you're dealing with overseas contractors. So first off, to my replay viewers, for those of you watching on replay, hashtag replay, you are not going to want to miss one of the points that I talk about today is surely going to help you if you're dealing with contractors in your productivity. So you want to make sure that you watch all the way through to see that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And first, I just want to get an idea of how many of you are actually dealing with a contract. You've hired a contractor, maybe even you plan to hire a contractor. So if you have hired a contractor, put a 1 in the chat. If you plan to, as part of your business, put a 2 in the chat. So let me just see where everybody is. So put a 1 in if you have hired a contractor into your business. Put a 2 in, and an overseas contractor. Put a 2 in if you haven't yet, but you plan to. So just so I get a feel. Now, as you're getting your thoughts together, when it comes to overseas contractors, I absolutely have overseas contractors in my business, and I don't consider them contractors. Yes, they are contractors by definition and not employees. However, I consider them teammates. They're members of my team. And I see some of the thoughts coming through here, seeing some 1s, some 2s, watching for a friend. I love it. And Georgia too. Okay, all right. So let's talk about some things then that you can take and use both now if you've hired or as you look forward to your next hire, and if you're looking for a friend, some information that you can pass on to them as well. So the very first thing that's important for you to know when we talk about overseas contractors is schedule alignment. So now currently in my team, there are a total of 4 of us currently. And all of my team, of course, with the exception of me, is not based in the US. Currently, that is the case. They are not based in the US. I have my creative manager who is also my assistant, and she is in the Philippines. You have Kamiko, who you see interacting in this community. She is in Jamaica. And I have another person, Chari, who is my ads manager and tech manager, and she is in the Philippines. So I understand what it is to have an overseas team and have it work beautifully in your business. So when I talk about schedule alignment, let's just talk about this first one for a second. So whenever you're thinking overseas, you need to build in and account for overlap. And in my opinion, overlap is a must. Like, it's not optional. That you have some type of overlap between that active time when you're working and that active time when they're working. And this becomes less of a need the longer the relationship is. But if you're doing things like, one-off, just team was in the chat. If you're doing things like one-off hires for certain things, unless it's something that's just like cut and dry, here's this, give me my deliverable, okay, that's one thing. But if you're talking about people who need to interact and they need to understand things in order to be able to deliver, and they need to do that over an extended period of time, then you want to have good overlap. Otherwise, what you're going to end up with is lost gaps in time. So you communicated something to them, it took a day for them to get it and not understand that what you said was the right thing. And so now you've lost a day, and so on and so on. So schedule overlap is a must. Now, just from a curiosity standpoint, what is kind of like your peak working time. So if you were to bring in an overseas contractor into your business, would you be more of a, I need my overlap in the AM or my overlap in the PM? So if you would say it's an AM, drop a 1. If you would say it's a PM, drop a 2. And I'm bringing this forward. One, I just like to see, who's kind of in that morning or evening time frame. But this is something that you need to consider as well, right? You think about your working style and what's going to work best. Now, just as you have your preferences for when you work, the folks that you hire may have their preferences for when they work, right? A lot of folks will work on US time when you're going overseas. But then sometimes you've got that mix. Okay, and I see Cassandra's got a both, but mostly 2. So mostly in that PM. Okay, so it's important for you to nail that down because you're going to want to keep that in play as you think about who's going to be who, what's going to be what. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now let's go on to the second thing. So the second thing is really a personality alignment, and it's not exactly personality. I couldn't think of the best word to really describe this. So it's not exactly personality, but think about it this way. You need to think about whether or not you are bringing in somebody into the team. Again, let's assume it's a longer working relationship, not just a one and done. If you're bringing somebody into the team, are you bringing in somebody who is purely an order taker? So purely, I have this thing that I want to get done. I just need you to do it. Like they go and they do it amazing, they get done. Or do you also want somebody that has a bit of a proactive nature? So yeah, I've given you something, but it would be great if you would suggest some things that I could do, or take the extra mile to say, hey, how about this? So that's more of that proactive nature. So you're going to want to think about what is it that I really want at this point in time. I'll tell you, for me, and you can ask anybody on my team, I am always like hey, here's what I'm thinking, right? Here's what I'm thinking, but I want to tap into your expertise. And so now, because I've set that tone, they all know. They will come to me. I just had CJ, who's going to edit this after it's done, had her come and say, hey, let's go out with this next thing next week because you just talked about this thing and we've got this lead magnet. That's proactive, right? Versus somebody where you have to constantly say, okay, now do this, now do that, now do that. And that has its place, absolutely. But you want to think about which of those do you need and how does it play? And then your responsibility in setting the tone and making sure that that person, especially if you want them to be more than just an order taker, making sure that their personality, their drive is capable of living up to that expectation and what you need. All right. So that's super, super important. And then before we get to the last one, with this topic, and I sat back and thought about it, and as I thought about it, I said, I wonder how many of the ladies are really at this point where they're considering the team, and how many of them are more in that sort of future mindset of, I know I'm going to want to do this at some point in time. I'm not there yet. Maybe I don't have my business figured out yet. Maybe I don't know that I'm in the right direction yet. So because of that, one of the things that I am going to do is over the next week, I'm going to hold space for at least 3 strategy sessions. So for anybody that wants to jump into a free strategy session, book a call with me, and let's just sort of talk through what you may be thinking to get your game plan to a place where you can eventually, if you're not already, bring in some of these team members to begin to propel your business forward. So I will make sure that it's in the chat, CandiceSpears.as.me/leap60. I'll make sure that it's in the chat. But that's something that you can take advantage of. I'll hold space for 3, so just keep that in mind. Now let's talk about the last one. And this is a super important one. And this one, regardless of whether or not you are bringing on contractors overseas, onshore, none at all, it's super important. And this one is about planning. So right now, even if you are a high functioning team of 1, a plan is important. So let me give you an example of just something that I do and that we just got finished doing, well, maybe a couple weeks ago. We were a little late. Just got finished doing, and that is around content planning. So when it comes time for a new month to roll around, there are some interactions now. There are a lot of different interactions and moving pieces that I now have. Podcast is on a break, but then there are other content things happening and going on and collaborations, and the group is here, and then there's LinkedIn and YouTube and everything else, right? That requires a bit of coordination. There's advertising happening. All that requires coordination. So the thing that is on me is I've got to understand, all right, so what's my plan? What am I after? What are we offering? What are we focusing on? How are we going to serve and show up? So those of you like Cassandra, the day when I sent out the message here in the group and said, hey, tell me what you want to know about in December. That was one of the days when I was slightly behind, but I needed to put together the plan, to sit down with the team and to make sure that everybody understood what part they play in, right? So when you have a team of people, it's important that you can give them what they need to do what they need to do to help the business be successful and help their own enrichment as well, right? That's the view that I take. So having a plan is super important. And again, you don't need a team to do this, but it's hard to know where you're going. It's hard to know what's important without a plan. And you do not want to be stuck just throwing things out there and hope they work. Oh, I didn't make a post today. Let me make a post. Oh, I didn't go on there and engage with people. Let me do it. No, you're doing it for some reason. Identify that reason, make a plan, and let others come along to help you. So just tell me this one thing, curious for you guys. So who has a plan right now? In fact, let's put it this way. If you have a plan right now in terms of like, okay, I know what I need to do to move my business forward, drop a 1. If you don't completely have a plan, or maybe it's a work in progress, drop a 2. So give me an idea. If you've got a plan, drop a 1. If your plan is still a work in progress, drop a 2. And I want you to very just deliberately acknowledge this for yourself, that the plan is important. So even in saying, hey, I'm a 1, I'm a 2, you're acknowledging that, okay, I have something I need to do, or I have something in place and I need to push forward with it even stronger. All right. Now, while you're doing this, and let me just scroll down because I have a habit of not scrolling down. See all the wonderful folks that have joined us. Hello and welcome. So while you are thinking about that and putting the rest in, and I see Cassandra's got a plan that is in progress too. Chandrika too, and Chandrika is in the Finding Freedom Accelerator, so we know that your plan is going to be on point. So Chandrika, glad that you are here with us. So again, I will say this for those of you that are in right now and you're listening or you're watching on the replay. If everything that I've said, you're kind of like, oh, this is great, but I still need to get to step A. Or if you're listening and you're like, this is great, but how do I really integrate this to get my business to take off, to get myself to the place where I am feeling good in a full-time perspective? Then like I said, I'm opening up 3 strategy sessions over the next week. So if you want to take advantage of that, for us to just sort of talk through and game plan out, well, what could be a good next step? And if I can help you, fantastic. If I can't, here's some advice on what to do. Go ahead and click the link. So I will put the link in the chat again for you. It's CandaceSpears.as.me, mouthful to say, /sleep60. I will put it in the chat for you. And that's pretty much all that I have for you all today. So next week, we're going to continue this same theme, but we're going to talk more about tools. And I'll tell you some of my favorite tools and how we are using some of our tools in our business and dealing with teammates that are global, they're remote, they're around the world, and how we get things done with those tools. So that is all. I hope you guys have an awesome evening. Upward, onward, all that good stuff. And I'll talk to you again soon. See ya.